You won't believe what Michelle Obama just revealed about her daughter Sasha's past. Let me tell you, this story remained hidden for years, and when the truth finally came out, it left everyone shocked. Michelle recently appeared on a podcast and casually dropped a bombshell about a terrifying incident that could have changed everything for the Obama family. The craziest part? This accident happened while they were still living in the White House, but somehow it never made it to the press. How did something this big stay a secret? Well, that's where things get really interesting. Michelle recalled the moment she received that dreaded phone call, a call no parent ever wants to get. She was told that Sasha had been in a car accident, and not just a small fender bender, her car was completely totaled. The words alone sent chills down Michelle's spine. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Instead of immediately panicking about Sasha, Michelle's first thought was about the other driver. "I hope the lady that hit her is okay," she admitted. And just think about it. Imagine being the person who accidentally crashes into Sasha Obama, the daughter of the President of the United States. That realization alone must have been terrifying. But here's the shocking part. How did the media not find out about this? The Obama family was constantly under the public eye. Every little detail about their lives was analyzed, photographed, and written about. Yet, this major car accident? Somehow, it never became public knowledge. No headlines, no leaked stories, nothing. It was almost as if the incident never happened. But why? Did the White House manage to keep it under wraps? Was the media deliberately kept away? Or was it just pure luck? Whatever the reason, it remained one of the best-kept secrets of the Obama era. Until now. Now, this is where it gets even more fascinating. Most people would assume that being the daughter of a sitting president means getting special treatment, right? Having drivers, security escorts, and the safest possible transportation at all times. But Michelle revealed something that no one saw coming. She and Barack made sure that their daughters, despite their status, lived as normal a life as possible. That included letting them drive themselves. Yes, even with the Secret Service watching their every move, Sasha was behind the wheel like any other teenager. And that's exactly how she ended up in that scary accident. But why would Michelle and Barack take such a risk? Why insist on letting their daughter drive when they had an entire security team at their disposal? Michelle had a very clear reason for it, and when she explained, it all made sense. Michelle had a strict rule when it came to her daughters. No matter how famous their family was, they had to experience life like normal kids. And that included driving. She believed that learning to drive was a skill they needed, something they couldn't just pick up by sitting in the back seat of an armored car. So, when Sasha and Malia got their licenses, Michelle and Barack got them a car. But here's where it gets crazy. Despite being the president's daughters, they still had to drive with Secret Service agents following them everywhere. Just imagine that. A teenager trying to enjoy her first taste of independence while a fleet of black SUVs trailed her every move. But things didn't go as smoothly as expected. One day, Sasha was driving when the unexpected happened. A car came out of nowhere and slammed into her vehicle, completely totaling it. Now, most people in that situation would be terrified. But for Sasha, the situation was even more complicated. She wasn't just any teenager in a car accident. She was the daughter of the most powerful man in the world. What would happen next? Would this turn into a national security crisis? Would the story explode in the media? But here's the most surprising part. None of that happened. The accident was handled so quietly that no one even knew it had taken place. The media, always eager for a scandal or a shocking headline, somehow missed it completely. How? Was it pure luck, or was there something more behind the scenes? Michelle never gave a clear answer, but the fact remains. The news never made it out. Meanwhile, Sasha had to deal with the aftermath of the crash. But she wasn't alone. Her mother, despite her initial shock, knew this was just another challenge of raising kids in the White House. Michelle had always tried to balance giving her daughters freedom while also protecting them from the pressures of their father's position. She once said that she constantly worried about them making headlines just for doing what normal kids do. And in this case, she was right to worry, because if the world had found out about Sasha's accident, the reaction would have been intense. But Michelle didn't back down. She knew that shielding Sasha from reality wouldn't help her in the long run. So instead of taking away her car keys or forcing her to always be driven by security, Michelle made sure Sasha learned from the experience and continued to drive. It was a risky decision, but for Michelle, raising strong and independent daughters was more important than playing it safe. Even after the accident, Michelle stood by her decision. She firmly believed that her daughters needed to learn responsibility, even if it came with risks. But this is where it gets even more interesting. Imagine the level of security involved in something as simple as letting Sasha drive again. The Secret Service had already been on high alert after the accident, and now they had to be even more cautious. Michelle later revealed that the agents had no choice but to adjust. They had to follow Sasha everywhere, to school, to parties, even just to grab food. And the idea of these highly trained professionals tailing a teenager must have been beyond frustrating for them. But here's the craziest part. Sasha wasn't just getting driving lessons from anyone. She and Malia were actually trained by the Secret Service themselves, and the training was intense. Michelle once joked that one of the agents told Malia to floor it during a lesson just to teach her how to react in an emergency. Just imagine that. A teenager learning to drive with techniques meant for high-speed chases and national security threats. This was far from an ordinary driving experience. And yet, through all of this, Michelle still had one major concern. How would Sasha and Malia handle the real world once their father's presidency ended? The White House had been their entire teenage experience. They had grown up with security, restrictions, and constant media attention. But what would happen when that was all gone? Would they be ready to live normal lives, or would the years of being watched take a toll on them? This question haunted Michelle, and it's why she kept pushing for them to have as much independence as possible, even if it meant facing challenges like the car accident. Looking back, Michelle admitted that she was always walking a fine line. She wanted her daughters to be prepared for the world, but at the same time, she knew they could never fully escape the spotlight. Even after leaving the White House, Sasha and Malia still found themselves the center of attention. Every outfit they wore, every place they visited, and even the smallest choices they made could go viral in an instant. And while they had more freedom than before, the eyes of the world never really stopped watching. But destiny took an unexpected turn. Sasha, once a young girl growing up in the most powerful house in the country, was now stepping into her own identity. The accident that could have been a disaster ended up being just another chapter in her story, a story of resilience, independence, and finding her own way despite the challenges of being an Obama. Even after leaving the White House, Sasha continued to make headlines, but this time for very different reasons. She was no longer just the president's daughter. She was now a young woman finding her own path. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Despite growing up in one of the most controlled environments possible, Sasha started making waves for her bold and carefree attitude. She wasn't afraid to step out of her father's shadow and live life on her own terms. And of course, the internet had a lot to say about it. One moment that sent social media into a frenzy was when Sasha was spotted out and about, completely unbothered, in an effortlessly cool outfit. People couldn't stop talking about how much she had transformed over the years. Comments flooded in, calling her the ultimate it girl and praising her confidence. But here's the shocking part. While some admired her, others couldn't let go of the fact that she was still an Obama. Every little thing she did became a topic of discussion. Even something as simple as enjoying a day out with friends could turn into a full-blown online debate. But Sasha didn't seem to care. And that's what makes this story different. Most people who grow up in the spotlight either try to escape it completely or struggle under the pressure. But Sasha, she embraced it in her own way. From the way she dressed to the way she carried herself, she showed the world that she was no longer just the president's daughter. She was her own person. And let's not forget the other moment that really had people talking, when Sasha was caught smoking. The internet exploded, with some people rushing to defend her, saying she was a grown woman who could make her own choices, while others were quick to criticize. But Michelle? She wasn't fazed at all. In fact, she had always known that raising normal kids in such an unusual environment would come with challenges. She once admitted that as a mother, she had to learn to let go, to accept that no matter how much she wanted to control things, her daughters would make their own decisions. Looking back, Michelle expressed relief that the White House years were behind them. She once said she was so glad when they finally left, because it meant Sasha and Malia could finally experience true freedom. But even after leaving, the cameras never really stopped following them. The world still watched, still judged, still reacted. Yet, through it all, Sasha proved that she could handle it. From a terrifying car accident that the world never knew about to stepping into adulthood under the constant gaze of the public, Sasha's journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. And that, right there, is the craziest part. Despite everything, she turned out just fine.